This deliberate invisibility was not accidental, it was doctrine. Albanian criminal networks understood almost intuitively that visibility meant vulnerability. The Colombians had fallen because of their excess. The Italians had fallen because of their politics. The Russians had fallen because of their greed. The Albanians watched all of this, and they drew their own conclusions. Stay small, stay invisible, stay family. By 2010, the transformation was complete. What had begun as a loose network of refugee couriers in the early 1990s had become the continent's most formidable criminal enterprise. And the timing, as it turned out, was perfect. Because in 2010, something happened that would hand the Albanian networks an opportunity no one could have predicted. The Ndrangheta, the Calabrian Mafia, widely considered the world's most powerful drug trafficking organization, needed new distribution partners in Northern Europe. Their existing networks had been compromised by a series of major law enforcement operations. They needed people they could trust, people with established roots, people with reach. They chose the Albanians. This alliance, between the Ndrangheta and the Albanian criminal networks, is described by Europol as one of the most significant developments in European organized crime in the past 2 decades. The Ndrangheta brought the cocaine. Albanian networks brought the distribution infrastructure, the embedded diaspora, and above all, the silence. The cocaine that arrived in Antwerp and Rotterdam, and Antwerp alone handles an estimated 40% of Europe's cocaine imports, was now moving through Albanian distribution channels into the United Kingdom, Scandinavia, and Central Europe with an efficiency that law enforcement struggled to comprehend, let alone disrupt. Seizures went up, but so did supply, because for every shipment that was caught, 3 more made it through, and the Albanian networks had learned to build in losses. They expected a certain percentage of shipments to be intercepted. They priced it in. It was simply a cost of doing business. In the United Kingdom, the impact was felt most acutely. By 2015, the National Crime Agency was reporting that Albanian nationals were disproportionately represented in drug trafficking operations across England and Wales. Not because Albanian criminals were careless, but because they were everywhere. County lines operations, the system by which urban drug networks push supply into smaller towns and rural areas using young local runners, were increasingly found to have Albanian nationals at the top of the supply chain. A senior NCA analyst described the structure as almost corporate in its design. At the top, a small group of Albanian nationals who never touched the product. Below them, a layer of trusted intermediaries, often also Albanian, who managed supply. Below that, local British distributors who were entirely expendable and entirely unaware of who sat above them. The Albanians at the top were virtually untouchable. They communicated through encrypted apps. They used multiple SIM cards. They met only in person, only briefly, and only when absolutely necessary. When one operation was dismantled, another was already running in parallel. The organization did not depend on any individual. It was designed to survive its own arrests. And then came the murder of Artan Lala. In 2019, a man named Artan Lala was shot dead in a cafe in Duisburg, Germany. He was Albanian. He had criminal connections. And his death set off a chain of events that gave European law enforcement their most significant window yet into the structure of the Albanian underworld. German investigators, working with Europol and Albanian authorities, began pulling at the threads. What they found was a network of extraordinary sophistication. Multiple shell companies across 6 countries. Cryptocurrency wallets holding millions in untraceable funds. A logistics operation that used legitimate freight companies, completely unknown, to move cocaine shipments embedded in industrial machinery. But more than the mechanics, they found the map. The connections between individuals across borders. The family trees of criminal alliances stretching from Tirana to London, from Brussels to Stockholm. One investigator described the moment they laid the full network diagram on the table for the first time. It looked, he said, less like a criminal organization and more like a multinational corporation, with regional offices, with middle management, with supply chain protocols. The only things missing were a board of directors and a pension plan. The question that haunts European law enforcement is a simple one. Can this be stopped? The honest answer from most analysts is not in any conventional sense. The Albanian networks have no single point of failure. They have no boss of bosses whose arrest brings down the entire structure. They are distributed, resilient, self-replicating. When one cell is destroyed, others continue. When one route is closed, another opens. The Balkan route gave way to the Western Mediterranean route. Antwerp gave way to smaller ports in Croatia and Montenegro when surveillance increased, and the networks are still growing. A 2023 Europol report identified Albanian criminal networks as active in 28 European countries. The cocaine trade alone, which has surged across Europe in the past decade, generates revenues that dwarf the GDP of Albania itself. There are efforts underway. Operation Eureka, a joint operation between the UK, Albania, and Europol, has resulted in hundreds of arrests across both countries. Albania itself, under significant pressure from the EU as part of its membership aspirations, has begun serious judicial and police reforms. The Special Anti-Corruption Structure, known as SPAC, has started prosecuting high-level cases that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. But investigators are candid. For every network they dismantle, 2 more are operating. For every leader they arrest, a nephew or a cousin or a trusted friend steps in. The structure is designed to be leaderless. The structure is designed to survive. Back to that wedding in 1994, the 2 men who shook hands in the hills outside Tirana, we don't know their names. We don't know what they agreed. We know only what followed. 30 years of expansion, so quiet, so methodical, so deeply embedded in the fabric of European society that by the time anyone looked up, the networks were already everywhere. In the kebab shop on the corner, in the construction company bidding on the government contract, in the freight forwarding firm that handles shipments for businesses across 4 countries, in the encrypted chat group that European police cannot read, between men who never raise their voices, who always say good morning to their neighbors, who have not forgotten a single obligation to their blood since the 15th century. The Albanian Mafia did not conquer Western Europe. It simply moved in, quietly, without announcement, and made itself at home. The question is not how it happened. The question is what comes next. And nobody, right now, has a clean answer to that.